Every day, the world creates an unbelievable amount of data. Not just photos and videos, but everything. Messages, GPS locations, security cameras, hospital records, AI training data, satellites, business files, scientific research, and millions of hours of streaming. And here's the shocking part. Most people think data is in the cloud. But the cloud is not a cloud. It's a physical place. It is thousands of huge buildings filled with computers, hard drives, cooling systems, and power lines running 24 hours a day. And the amount of data being produced is growing faster than the world can comfortably store it. This is why scientists and engineers are asking a serious question. What will we do when hard drives and SSDs are no longer enough? Because storage is not infinite. It takes space. It takes money. And it takes electricity. Let's talk about the storage you already know. Hard drives, HDDs. Hard drives store data using spinning disks and magnetic heads. They are cheap and they can store a lot. But they have problems. Moving parts wear out. They are slow compared to modern needs. They consume power. And they need constant cooling in data centers. Solid-state drives, SSDs. SSDs are much faster, and they have no moving parts. But they also have limits. They are expensive. They wear out after heavy usage. And they still require huge factories and rare materials. Now imagine this. If the world keeps producing more and more data every year, we will need more and more storage buildings. More buildings means more land, more electricity, more cooling, and more cost. And even worse, more storage means more environmental impact. So the question becomes, is there any storage method that is extremely small, extremely dense, and can last a very long time? That's where DNA enters the story. DNA is the molecule that stores life's instructions. Every living organism has DNA. Your DNA stores how your body grows, how your cells work, how your eyes and skin are formed, and how your body repairs itself. Now here's the mind-blowing part. DNA is a storage system. It stores information using 4 chemical letters: A, T, C, G. Computers store data using only 2 symbols: 0, 1. So in a way, DNA is like a natural digital code, except it's written chemically. And nature has already proven something incredible. DNA can store massive information in an unbelievably tiny space. That's why a human body can be built using information stored inside microscopic cells. So scientists asked, if DNA can store the blueprint of a human, can it also store movies, books, documents, and the entire internet? The answer is yes. Now we come to the famous statement. 1 gram of DNA can store 1 million gigabytes of data. That is 1 petabyte. Let's make that real. 1 petabyte can hold around 250,000 HD movies, or millions of photos, or the full data of a large company, or years of personal data. Now imagine 1 gram. A gram is like a pinch of salt, a small sugar packet, a tiny drop in your hand. And that tiny amount could theoretically store 1 million gigabytes. Even more shocking, some scientific estimates say DNA could store much more than 1 petabyte per gram, possibly tens or even hundreds of petabytes. So the 1 petabyte claim is actually a safe, simple number for the public. But now we must ask the most important question. If DNA storage is so powerful, why don't we use it already? In part 2, we will uncover how DNA data storage actually works, step by step, and why it is still not in your laptop today. To store a file in DNA, scientists first convert the file into digital code. A normal file is stored as 0 and 1. DNA uses A, T, C, G. So scientists create a conversion system. For example, 00 equals A, 01 equals C, 10 equals G, 11 equals T. This is just a simple example. In real labs, they use more complex methods to avoid errors. Because DNA writing is not perfect, mistakes can happen. So they add error correction, redundancy, indexing, just like a computer hard drive does. So now your file becomes a long DNA sequence, a chemical text message. Next, the DNA must be created physically. This is called DNA synthesis. This is not like saving a file instantly. It is a chemical manufacturing process. A machine builds DNA strands letter by letter. A, then T, then C, then G. And it does this thousands of times. Because to store a file safely, you don't store one strand. You store many copies and fragments. This is similar to how a book is printed in many copies. So writing DNA is slow. But once it's written, something amazing happens. DNA can be stored in a tiny capsule, in dry form, and it can last a very long time. Hard drives fail. SSDs fail. USB drives fail. Even DVDs and tapes degrade over time. But DNA can last for a very long time if stored properly. In fact, scientists have extracted readable DNA from ancient humans, old animals, and even extinct species. Some DNA has survived thousands of years. So if we store data in DNA and keep it in cool temperature, dry environment, and protected from UV light, it could potentially last hundreds or even thousands of years. That means DNA is not just a storage device. It is an archival device. A time capsule for human knowledge. Now comes the most important step. How do you read the file again? You can't plug DNA into a USB port. To read DNA, scientists use a machine called DNA sequencer. A sequencer reads the DNA letters A, T, C, G. Then a computer converts them back into 0 and 1. And the original file is rebuilt. So the storage cycle is file binary DNA code synthesized DNA. Then later, DNA sequencing DNA code binary file. This is real. Scientists have already stored and retrieved images, text, videos, music, and even computer programs. So DNA storage works. But it has a big problem. It is currently expensive, slow, and complex. So in part 3, we will answer the question: why is DNA storage not in data centers yet? And what must change for it to become practical? The biggest problem is cost. Right now, writing DNA is expensive because DNA synthesis machines are costly. Chemicals are costly. And the process is slow. Today, storing 1 petabyte in DNA would cost a huge amount, far beyond normal storage systems. This is why DNA storage is not competing with SSDs, hard drives, or cloud storage. At least not yet. But remember something. All new technologies start expensive. Computers were expensive. Smartphones were expensive. Even hard drives were expensive decades ago. Prices drop when manufacturing improves. Machines become faster. And companies invest in scaling. So DNA storage is currently expensive, but not impossible. The second big issue is speed. When you save a file to an SSD, it happens instantly. But DNA storage is slow. Because Writing DNA is chemical. Reading DNA requires sequencing. And both take time. So DNA is not good for daily work, running apps, gaming, or streaming. It is not a replacement for SSDs. Instead, DNA storage is best for cold storage. Cold storage means data that is not used every day. For example, government archives, medical history records, research data, old videos, legal documents, libraries. For this kind of data, speed is less important. Longevity matters more. The third problem is accuracy. DNA writing and reading can introduce errors. Missing letters, extra letters, wrong letters. But science has solutions. Error correction codes, redundancy, fragment indexing, multiple copies. It's similar to how Wi-Fi and hard drives handle errors. So errors are not a killer problem. They are an engineering problem. And engineering problems can be solved. So what is the realistic future? DNA will not replace SSDs in your laptop. It will not replace RAM. It will not be used for gaming. Instead, DNA storage will likely become a next-generation replacement for magnetic tape archives, long-term cloud backups, national libraries, scientific data vaults. Because magnetic tape is currently the most common long-term archive storage. Tape is cheap, but it has problems. It degrades. It requires large storage rooms. And it must be replaced every few years. DNA could store the same data in a tiny space, with less power, and for far longer time. Now in part 4, we will explore the biggest question. Is DNA storage really the future, or just a lab experiment? And what might come next beyond DNA? DNA storage is not just a science fiction idea. Real companies and universities have worked on it. Researchers have already proven data can be stored in DNA. Data can be retrieved accurately. And storage density is extremely high. Big tech companies have also shown interest because they understand one thing. The world will need archival storage for centuries. AI training data alone will create massive archives. So even if DNA storage is slow, it may still be valuable. Because for archives, we don't need speed. We need stability. This is the strongest point. Hard drives last maybe 3 to 10 years. SSDs can last longer, but still not permanent. Tape must be maintained and replaced. But DNA, stored properly, could last hundreds of years, possibly thousands. That means human knowledge could be preserved like never before. Imagine storing all books, all medical research, all scientific papers, all languages, all history, in a few small boxes. This is not a fantasy. This is the direction science is moving. Now let's be honest. Many videos on the internet make DNA storage sound like soon your phone will have DNA memory. That is not realistic. DNA storage is not designed for daily storage, fast access, rewriting files quickly. It is designed for deep archives, ultra long-term preservation. So the future will likely look like this. SSDs for speed, HDDs for cheap bulk storage, DNA for ultra-long archives. Each technology will have its role. Let's end with the most powerful idea. The most advanced storage technology in nature is already inside your body. Your cells store information that can build your brain, your heart, your bones, your entire life system. And now, humans are learning to use that same system to store digital data. So the title of this video is not just a catchy line. It represents something real. 1 gram of DNA could theoretically store 1 million gigabytes. And while it won't replace SSDs tomorrow, it could become the greatest archival storage system humanity has ever invented. Because in the future, the world won't just need more storage. It will need storage that lasts.
Subscribe Info Beyond Borders now for more mind-blowing knowledge.